Very good. So we've talked about a lot of things here, and we are ramping up our knowledge slowly. All right. The next thing I would like to talk about is if we go to our app. So I went ahead and closed all of these guys that were open, like Java and so forth. But if we go to the top here, right after our app folder or directory or package, we have this other package called manifests. So if you open inside, there's this thing called Android manifest.xml. So let's double click and see what is this. Well, as everything in Android ecosystem, you notice that everything here also is in the manifest.xml file is indeed an XML file. Now, what does this do? Well, the Android manifest file glues everything together in this Android framework ecosystem, if you will. Meaning, it is here where we define the structure and metadata of our application. What does that mean? What is this metadata thing? Well, our application, when it's running in this sandbox as its own entity on an Android device, it has to have obviously the main component. So it has all the libraries, everything that makes sure that the operating system actually recognizes this application as an Android application, okay? And then inside of this sandbox, look at each application as a sandbox. It has to have some sort of cohesiveness within its structure. So the XML file is that cohesiveness of the structure of the entire application, because this is where we can set things up, such as registering activities. What is that? Well, for every activity that we create, meaning that for every window or view that we create that users can actually interact with, we must register that activity inside of our Android manifest. Now, again, the good news here is that nowadays you don't have to automatically come and register, as you can see here. This is done automatically. Now let's dissect things a little bit here. I know everything is squiggle lined and all sort of things here, but no worries. Hopefully you can still see what's going on. Let's start dissecting the activity tag here. So we can actually close and open it, right? So all of this is actually inside of our big manifest XML file here, tag. And inside of that, we have this application tag, which means our Android application project here, right? So inside there, that's when we have even probing inside of our application tag, we have this activity. So here is where we would add all the activities that we will be adding. And you'll see as we continue creating more complex apps, you will see all of that in action. Like I was saying, all of this now it's done for us when we create the activities ourselves. So we don't have to come here and register ourselves. It used to be that you had to come and register yourself. So where you would create an activity and then come here, say activity, give it a name and all that stuff. So there's a few things that are happening here instead of activity. So these are properties, if you will, or attributes for this activity. There's intent filter here. So what this means, there's this action attribute. What this says that, well, this activity here is going to be the first thing that is going to open when we run this application. So this is the main, as you see here, action.main. Okay. And category, it says launcher. So that again, it says that it's going to launch this activity when the application starts. All right. We can add so many other attributes to our activities as well as to our application in its entirety. Obviously, this application means the entire application. Speaking of that, if we look at this application tag here, inside we have this property, Android allow backup. So this allow backup here set to true, it means it will allow to back up this application once it's ready and running on the user's phone. So this is all internals that we don't have to do anything. All we have to do is say true or false if you don't want this to be allowed. Now this again is for the entire application. And next we have the icon attribute here, right? And you notice if you hover over here, you notice that it is actually pointing to a @meepmap IC launcher. Right, so if we go to our MIP map here, so as there is indeed MIP map, it goes and gets the IC launcher. And inside of there, we have all these different versions of the IC launcher PNG. So that is the icon that we see in our application. So if I open up my Android Studio here, get out of here, I'm going to clear it all. If we go to our apps, you see, this is an icon. This is an icon. This is an icon. Okay, so this is the default icon if we don't specify our own icon, which we will later. Android gives us this very nice droid icon for our applications, which we can change later. All right, so that's where it's set. And here we have label. Oh, make it rain. If you hover over, you can see it says add string app name. Right, because even here too, it goes and fetches from our string resources. Let's go to values and gets the app name, which is make it rain. In fact, if I come here and put spaces there and save and run our app, you should see it will actually change the name for our app name. In fact, it was going to go ahead and change this as well because this is connecting to our strings, right? Very good. You can see now there's space in between make it rain. And this another round icon, so it goes and fetches again inside of our MIP map icons here and gets the IC launcher round and so forth. Okay, and you can see here we have also the theme. So now what are we doing here? We're adding these pieces of data that will be governing the entire application. So this is the style. So it goes to the style. We haven't talked about style yet. No worries, we'll get there. Inside of styles here, this is what was created automatically when we created our application here. So the style allows us to stylize the entire application, even activities that we create at a later time. We'll talk more about that. Okay? That's that. And of course, also equally important, the manifest file is where we will later add permissions for our applications. Remember that the Android system allows for users when they run their applications to see permissions or to accept certain permissions before the application runs. So you've probably seen before where you open up, download an app, and all of a sudden there's this pop-up window that says, here are a list of permissions that you must accept in order for this application to work properly. And most of the times, the app will continue to work, but if you don't accept, then you're saying that I don't want this to access certain things on my phone. Okay, so for instance, we can add here, open there, we can say permission, uses permission, and look at that. All of these permissions are safeguards, if you will, that will allow this application to show the user so that users knows exactly what is the application going to access. And users can say no or can say yes. So that's part of the Android security process. Okay, as you can see here, there's account manager, there's access Wi-Fi state, find location, course location, check-in property, and so many others. Okay, very good. So obviously we will dive deeper as we learn more about Android, but I just want to give you a little taste as to what it is manifest and what does it do. Very good. I'll see you next.